All right, guys, it is time for lesson 2 of our tutoring training videos. In this one, I'm going to talk about math tutoring. All right, math tutoring is just the hardest type of tutoring. When you're working with things like algebra and whatnot, it's not that it's hard to explain to somebody how to do a math problem. That part's easy. But to get that level of performance where they're actually doing well in their school math exams, it is one of the hardest things in all of tutoring. It's the exact opposite of group classes, right? In group classes, when you have a math student, you're like, oh, thank God, math is the easiest thing to teach. But in one-on-one tutoring, math is going to be the hardest. And here's why. Here's what you're up against. It's not that it's hard to explain the math. I mean, that you guys can all do right now. It's that you're going to be up against this, where somebody's going to learn a topic in math, forget that topic, learn the next topic, forget that topic, etc. So they're learning, like, say, 5 megabytes of information, then emptying that cache and adding 5 new megabytes of information. They're getting one bucket, tossing it out, filling that same bucket, tossing it out, filling that same bucket, and what the results are what you expect them to be. I mean, the exams are a total train wreck. The tests are pretty bad, but not as much of a train wreck. The quizzes usually tend to go okay because that's just short-term memorization. So that's what you're up against. So what do we do about that? There's a few things. I mean, a lot of times I just recommend group class for math. With math tutoring, if somebody's meeting once a week, it's just going to be hard. I mean, you have to really do your best to let clients know that once a week for math tutoring, especially if you're struggling, it's probably not going to do it. It's just not for things like algebra, pre-algebra, pre-calculus, geometry. It's just not going to do it if a student's struggling. I'm not saying if somebody's getting an A minus, they want to get an A, or an A and they want to get an A plus. I mean, if they're getting a D, an hour a week is not going to do it. So here are the things that you want to keep in mind. First, you've got to build a kernel. You've got to build a kernel of math understanding of that other thing's going to add to. There has to be something permanent that they add to, because right now there's nothing permanent. It's all temporary. They learn a thing, forget it. Learn the next thing, forget it. Learn the next thing. Nothing is being added, right? There's no seed crystal that you can add to. So you need to make sure there's something permanent. That's where you really, on math tutoring, you must use the review questions. That is so key. Do not let any student go skip the review their review question that you yourself are doing for tutoring. Their math tutoring review questions you must do at the beginning of every tutoring session, no matter what. That's the first thing. Second thing, you have to make it clear right from the beginning. And of course, I'll make it clear in the consultation, but you have to make it clear right from the beginning that everything they learn in math is going to be permanent. It's not going to be memorize, forget, memorize, forget, memorize, forget. And so make sure they know they're going to be reviewing those things at the beginning of every single class. They're going to want to hop from one subject to another like a drunken frog. It's your job to not let them. You guys already know what matters, right? Factoring, combined like terms, multiplying monomials. If you can get somebody to learn those things, they're going to dominate their school in math because no one else can do them either. Now, when it comes to more advanced math, here's where things are going to get really hard, because they're going to be not knowing how to do combined like terms and want to know how to graph a sine function. And then you're going to be in a tricky situation. That's where you need to do a few things. First, you need to make sure you've emailed the parents and me that this is a major situation. You need to explain that to the students. If necessary, set up a consultation with me and the parents, or you and the parents if you're comfortable with that, so we can really drive this point home. Because if you cave to that one time, then for the rest of forever, they're just going to learn nothing from you or from anyone else ever. You must absolutely hold this line. So, key things. Use the review questions, work on the issues, on those underlying issues, just like we do in group class. And a lot of times you're actually going to end up recommending group class, because when it comes down to it, group classes generally work much better than tutoring for math. Not on a per hour base. I mean, tutoring generally beats a group class in a per hour base of how much you do per hour. The thing is, most people won't do 8 hours of tutoring a week, but they will do 8 hours of group class a week. So that's where we get some of those differences. All right, anyway, that is lesson number 2, math tutoring, key lesson. Don't let people memorize, forget. They're going to want to. You have to not let them. The other things that you want to keep in mind for all of this, make sure they're not using a calculator. And finally, make sure they're showing their steps. That's where kids miss a lot of all the points in their math classes. It's because they don't write the steps, they make stupid mistakes. If you want some videos on that, just type the word steps into Slack, and that'll bring up 3 videos. You can use them. You should watch them yourselves. You can use them with your students whenever you need to.